Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Burke County Board of Commissioners pre-agenda meeting for Monday, November 3rd, 2025 at 3 p.m. Madam Clerk, I'll call the meeting to order. All commissioners are present, including Mr. Burns, who's coming up the ramp, and our county attorney, finance officer, manager. Everybody is present. Let me ask you to silence your mobile devices if you got telephones and other things that make a noise. Please take care of that. And as you come to the podium today, please press the button on the right. Be sure the red light comes on so we can hear you and get a good YouTube recording. Gentlemen, you've had the agenda for some time. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended. Let me ask you to look at adding consent item number 6. Actually, we'll remove consent item number 6. Number eight. I'll not read. Yep, number 8. Sorry, thank you. We are removing consent item number 8, approval of occupancy tax release. So with that amended removal, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. 5-0, Madam Clerk. All right, have a number of presentations today. First one comes from Burke County United Way, proclamation for Burke County Nonprofit Day. This will be presented by Abigail Taylor this afternoon, marketing and campaign manager for Burke County United Way. Afternoon, Abigail.
Hey, how are you? My name is Abigail. I am the marketing director for Burke County United Way, and we're very excited to celebrate the 6th annual One Burke Gives Giving Day. That's going to be on Tuesday, December 2nd, 2025, and this is a 24-hour Giving Day event that is hosted online at oneburkegives.org, and it's dedicated to supporting nonprofits throughout Burke County. So our first Giving Day event was in 2020 as a response to COVID, and that was to provide a convenient way for donors to give to nonprofits to fundraise. And since that year, Burke County municipalities have graciously joined us in proclaiming Giving Day as Burke Nonprofits Day, also known as One Burke Gives Giving Day. So it's been incredible to see our community rally around this tradition, which is not only a tradition in our county now, but also celebrated worldwide as Giving Tuesday. It's always the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. So each year, Burke County United Way always sponsors the online platform so that every 501c3 nonprofit located in Burke County can join and participate for absolutely free to fundraise and connect with their donors. So right now we have about 32 nonprofits signed up to join us so far. Together as a community, we've raised over $100,000 in one day for our local nonprofits. So we're hoping to get higher than that this year, and especially in the wake of Hurricane Helene, which is more than important than ever to support our nonprofits in Burke County. So just as a reminder, it's the number 1 burkegives.org, and it's 24 hours, so please join us that day. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Abigail. Any questions for Abigail about this special day of giving? All right, seeing here none, this item will remain on the agenda. Thank you, Abigail. Appreciate it. This has been a successful avenue for folks to participate and give in our community, and we appreciate all the work that United Way does there. Item number 2 comes from the County Manager, Foster Care introduction of Beverly Morton. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Continuing the point of emphasis and theme of highlighting foster care and the need for continued investment in that market for Burke County and the children that are experiencing foster care. We had a member of our first Citizens Academy we just completed a couple of weeks ago. Her name was Beverly, and in week 4, while we were at Public Health and Social Services, and foster care was one of the topics of conversation that day. She shared with the group some of her experiences as a foster parent here in Burke County, and As we've moved through the last 7 or 8 months, the Board of Commissioners have allowed last month, Ms. Hope, who was, lived in foster care. We've heard from providers, we've heard from the judicial system, and this is just the next layer of perspective. So Ms. Beverly would be here to talk about what her experience is as a foster parent and answer questions the board may have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Manager. Any questions on this item? All right, seeing here none, this item will remain on the presentation agenda without objection. Item number 3, also from the county manager, recognition of the graduating class of 2025 Citizens Academy. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, sir. Very, very pleased with the completion. And proud of the folks who stuck with us through that 6-week course. We've invited each of those graduating participants to your meeting in 2 weeks, and would like to give the Board of Commissioners an opportunity to recognize and congratulate that group for being the inaugural class, and also offer a short time for them to give us any feedback or any comments that they want us to make. But largely in this on this topic, we're just recognizing their commitment and giving the board an opportunity to recognize them for that.
All right, thank you, Mr. Manager. Any questions on this item? All right, seeing here none, this item will remain on the presentation agenda without objection. Item number 4, also from the county manager, FEMA Public Assistance Process Update, and Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be very brief and may have more up-to-date information at your regular meeting in 2 weeks. But I wanted to provide some insight, and this may be the shortest, most brief PowerPoint that I've ever done for this board, by the way. So 3 slides, that's about as good as I can do. I did want to provide an update on the public assistance process for Burke County. As you all know, we submitted an application originally that had 5 categories. One of our categories has been removed because insurance, it was building improvements. We had a small building issue, but our insurance covered that, so we withdrew that from our public assistance application. So our final application is moved across 4 categories, with the vast majority being Category A, which covered our debris management. Most of that was right-of-way debris, but that also included some of the other debris for commercial and so forth that we were participatory in collecting. I would point out that Category B was emergency operations. About 50% of that was disallowed, and that was for all of our staff. So folks that worked at our in our preliminary damage assessment, folks that were traveling around the county doing those maps, people that may have worked in the donation center. We had, as you all know, county employees really were all hands on deck, and we completed what are called ICS 214s and 215, which captured those times. And for any cost that was already budgeted, regardless of what the topic was that the employee was working on, because it was already a budgeted cost, FEMA did not allow us to capture that, which is not exactly how we understood the public assistance policy doctrine to work. I would say that I think the document's been updated a couple of times throughout this process. I think the event that happened in Western North Carolina is something that was unprecedented, and the rules have changed fluidly all the way through. Burke County originally, just like every county in Western North Carolina, were assigned what's called a PDMG, which is kind of FEMA's local project manager that they assign to you. And I would dare to say that we've probably had 12 to 15 of those. So you get somebody for a week or 2, you finally know their name, they finally get their head around your application. They're the ones who are supposed to be the intermediary, if you will, for how to complete your application. And all of that is being compiled based off of a document that we refer to as the PAPA-G, and there's a long acronym for that, but it is the FEMA Public Assistance Doctrine. It's probably, I would say more than 500 pages, somewhere 500-600 pages, and it talks about the types of documentation that you need to have, what types of costs will be collected, how that'll be interpreted, what is reimbursable versus not reimbursable, the different categories, and all of those things. So it is the manual, if you will, to completing your public assistance application. And that has changed at least twice, probably 3 times in the roughly 14 months that Burke County's been trying to conduct an application. In my last slide, I thought I would try to map out. So I've been asked a couple times, how does the public assistance process work? And, I'm not an electrical engineer or a builder, but sometimes I look at schematics and I'm like, that's hard to follow. And I would tell you that the FEMA public assistance process is incredibly difficult to follow. So if I can, I'll briefly walk you through. And I've primarily done this for our Category A application because obviously it's the vast majority. So, and I'll bear with me as I walk through this, but I do think it's important to give you all some update of where we are as a county. For reference, we've received $12,000 to date. So both Category F and G have been reimbursed. That's what we've got out of $11.4 million. And I think that we're ahead of every other county in the region. So the first thing that I would say is there's a state procurement contract that was drafted in 2019. So when the storm first happened, for debris collection, there was 3 vendors that the state had already gone through the bidding procurement process for. So we were largely able to avoid that. And the state does that for emergency management response so that you don't have time delay in drafting an RFP, going through an interview process and selecting a vendor. There's already preset contracts in place. One for monitoring, that would be the folks who largely tag the material. And one for collection, that's the actual contractors that come in and collect the material. For Burke County, the prime contractor and what the State Department of Emergency Management advised us to do was we hired Southern Debris Removal, SDR, for the collection, and a company called Debris Tech for the monitoring. Those folks go through and largely do their work, and then they bill the county. That's where that $11 million that we have paid for, so forth, comes from. The first 6 months, as you'll remember, because this was a level 1 disaster, meaning it was over $1 billion, that moves this event at a national level to a level 1 emergency. And that gives the executive branch some administrative authority, and they waive, typically, the FEMA public assistance process is a 75-25 split. And in North Carolina, historically, the 75% being paid by the federal government, reimbursable, 25% being a local cost. In North Carolina, that 25% historically, going back 50 years, has been split 50-50 between the county and the state. At the time of this storm, the executive branch issued a 100% 6-month window. So 100% of the cost between September the 28th and March the 28th was reimbursable. So that's what I'm showing here is the first 6 months of our application, we spent about $7.6 million, and 100% of that is in this one component for 100% reimbursable through FEMA. And then the remaining from March 24th through May 31st was about another $3.9 million, and 90% of that is reimbursable from the federal government, with the final 10%, at least what we've been told, being reimbursed to Burke County by the State Department of Emergency Management. Now, as you all are aware, May 31st, we took action to sign on to the NC SMART program. After weeks and months of asking for U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to take over the project with really no feedback, we turned over operations to the state. The contractor stayed the same. It was still Debris Tech and SDR. Burke County and our board was just no longer the contractors or the contractees. We no longer had the cash flow management or the legal management. As you all can imagine, at the time that we made this transition, we were also getting into waterway debris collection and private property debris removal, which opened up a tremendous amount of regulatory risk as well as private property damage risk with right of entry agreements, and all of that was a real challenge. So primarily from the financial side and the risk side, we decided to leverage this NC SMART program, which really took the burden off of county government and transition that to the state. And I know that there's been some operational hiccups, and I would say, probably some inefficiencies since that happened. We've heard from our citizens on that. We've tried to fill some of those gaps. But from a financial perspective and from a FEMA public assistance perspective, that kind of has driven its own way. And I put this here to say that kind of took that. So our exposure would remain in this 100% and this 90% gap. So following that, we moved to working with our local PDMG. We moved to putting together our application at this local level. And I would tell you that is for every component of the application was hundreds of pages. So this is in totality, thousands and thousands and thousands of pages that are in this application. From there, it goes to level 2, which is a project disaster team leader, also with FEMA. And from there, it goes to this CRC review, which has 4 lenses, all in, all inside of the FEMA compartment. One is a legal review, starting all the way back here with contracts and procurement and invoicing. They have a financial review. That's supposed to say EPA, I apologize, not CPA, EPA. Archaeological, and then the financial component. So there is a multitude of sign-offs at this level. So at this point, we've got, working with our local PDMG, which changed many, many times. Our application put together, it moves to this disaster team leader, then to this CRC review with these other 4 sign-offs. And then we had been the first county that I'm aware of to make it to this large project review, because this was a level 1 disaster. Anything over $1,039,000, which ours was, as you all know, $11 million, sent it to Washington, D.C., where this large project review is. In a typical situation, what we've been told is if you make it to this point, it's largely an administrative review, and then it goes to FEMA obligation. They send 90% of the money to the State Department of Emergency Management. They send us 90%, and then we wait on the final 10% from the state. That's what normally happens. Again, as far as I know, we were the first county to make it to this section of the review process, and we've been kicked all the way back down to here. And to give you some indication, now this is a process that's taken 14 months, and we've argued about number of minutes that generators worked and were turned on, and we've argued about the way that brush was disposed of. How many feet off the road was it? Was it a leaner or not a leaner? Did we use an air curtain burner or not? Just an enormous amount of back and forth. Most recently, what got us kicked back to the beginning part of the process, and we're trying to work back on it, is that during this large project review, about 43% of our total invoices from the monitoring company had that the trailers that were hauling the debris were 90% full. So when these contractors were taking the material to these alternative debris sites, like the fair, like over on Fleming Drive, they would pull under Debris Tech, who's a licensed monitoring company who was up on a scissor lift. They would pull under, and they had a scanning technology that would give the volume of material, because there's not scales everywhere. So instead of doing it by weight, the amount that these people charged is by volume of material in the trailer. So the trailers had to be measured and tagged. It had to be a specific trailer. How tall is it? How long is it? How wide is it? How much material could it hold if it was if it was compacted and full? And FEMA decided that there was no way any trailer could be 90% full, and about 43% of our pay apps had trailers that were reported to be 90% full. Now, we've talked to Debris Tech, and they've never seen this happen before. Their attorneys are engaged with FEMA attorneys. This was after 4 layers of review. But now they're arguing that you can't be more than about 83 to 85% full. So if you take 43% of our total load data, and you take about 5 to 7% off of that, that's what we're now trying to get our head around. But I think it's important to say that this process has been rigorous. Certainly want to give a lot of gratitude to Margaret and to Brian Neeft and some of the folks in the finance office for their patience. We are trying to push this along. Again, I've spoke to many of my county manager peers, to say that there's a level of frustration would be an understatement, but we're continuing to try to move it through the process. I feel that we'll be successful. It's just this continuous effort to try to move it through the system. And again, I thought it may be an appropriate opportunity to update the board on why it maybe feels like it's taking a little while. But it is a very cumbersome process. We're back here now, so we'll go back through these steps, hopefully to get here, and then take a right versus taking a left. Once we understand, we've been advised not to agree to the 85, 86, 87. I think that was the strategy, is we're only going to approve 83% to sign here. And for us, that could be several $100,000 in missed reimbursement. So the advice from the monitoring company at this point is that sit tight. They think that they can get through legal remedy the 90% approved, and because that's what we've already paid. And that's why we hired a monitoring company, and they're licensed and professional and have the technology and are responsible for that. So at this point, we are working with FEMA, also working with our monitoring company, and trying to get back to that large project review and ultimately to obligation with FEMA. So happy to answer any questions you all may have, but I thought it'd be a good opportunity to catch us all up on where we are in that process.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Any questions on this item?
Yeah, Brian, I thank you for this slide, but to me, this seems like is the whole problem, everything we deal with everywhere around. I think about the contractors and people like that. How do they make it when you got the state or the federal holding monies up? Maybe everything looks so confusing, everything looks complicated. I don't know why we got to be so complicated on all of our government stuff. It's pretty simple stuff to me, but we go through so many processes, so many committees and this and that. Whole time people say, where's my money at? Show me my money, but for doing the work. But anyway, that might not apply to anything there, just want to say it.
Brian, have we engaged with Congressman Moore's office on any of this at this point?
Yes.
Okay,
And saw movement after that.
good, thank you.
Mr. Manager, just one question. Looks like that $11 million that we're kind of waiting on, I think you made big headway on return on investment from our general fund, and obviously this has funded that. So do you think we're going to see maybe a $800,000-900,000 potential loss of revenue in investment return on that money that's out of there?
It's a fair question. I don't know if it'll be that significant, but certainly when you expend an unplanned $11 million, your cash on hand is depleted.
Yeah.
And when you have less cash on hand, your ability to invest is less. So one could expect, both with declining rates, which is happening, and with less cash on hand, there will be some impact on return. I don't know that it'll be hundreds of thousands of dollars, but it'll be some for sure. Yes, sir.
Only thing I saw, Mr. Manager, was a little bit of false advertising. You said 3 slides and short, and then you didn't say the third slide was going to have 13 boxes and 28 pads. So, okay.
Well,
Without objection, this
Margaret says you should see our whiteboard where we tried to get this in one slide. Yes, sir.
without objection, this item will remain on the presentation. Thank you, Mr. Manager. Item number 5, emergency management presentation of Lifesaver Awards. This will be presented by James Robinson, our emergency services director. Afternoon, James.
Please, sorry, thought it was on already. The same way we do on a quarterly basis, but in November with Thanksgiving, we like to make sure that we give extra thanks. We're fortunate enough this time, we had a remarkable number of citizens that were involved in rescues or identifying and making the difference and prolonging the inevitable for others within our community. So we've actually got some plaques. We'll have the finished items done. I've got one here in case you would like to see it, but we'll be presenting at least 3 of those, 2 of them to children under the age of 18 and one of them to an adult, and I think that's remarkable once you get to actually hear their stories. We'll also have a remote in. We had an incident during a training exercise, and the victim from that is actually a firefighter who asked if he could discuss his outcome and the outcome that he had based on the treatment that he received by Burke County EMS paramedics. So he's going to remote in. We've got a link already set up for him. He's going to give a brief thank you statement. We'll talk a little bit about that activity that he did. But it's been an outstanding quarter for us. I'll be happy to be able to make that presentation for you at the regular meeting. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, James. Any questions on this item? All right, seeing here none, without objection, this item will remain on the presentation agenda. Item number 6 from our Health Department, the presentation of the 2025 Community Health Assessment. This item will be presented at our regular meeting. However, Miranda is out of town today, and don't think we have anybody that can answer any question about that here today. Any concern about leaving that on the agenda? All right, seeing here none, item number 6 will remain on the presentation agenda. This brings us to item number 4, scheduled public hearings. Have one public hearing scheduled this month. This comes from Community Development, Zoning Map Amendment ZMA 2025-06, and Patrick Dickinson, our planner, will present that. Afternoon, Patrick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We are requesting a public hearing for ZMA 2025-06. The applicant is Country Squire Leasing LLC, and the PIN is 2772-357468. This is located at 2893 US 70 in Conley Springs, and they are requesting a rezoning from residential to general business. Do y'all have any questions for me, and did everyone see the report?
Everybody had a chance to look at it. Any questions for Patrick on this item? All right, seeing here none, this item will remain on the public hearing agenda.
Thank y'all.
Thank you. Item number 5 brings us to consent agenda. First item on the consent agenda is Western Piedmont Community College Financial Report for the period ending June 30th and September 30th. This will be presented by Sandy Holman, Vice President for Administrative Services. Afternoon, Sandy.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you for allowing me to come today. I wanted to real quickly do a recap of fiscal year 2025. We spent 92% of our total state budget. Out of our formula allocation, we spent 99%. The rest of it can be carried forward, and some of those items include apprenticeship funding, basic skills, our high-cost grant programs for EMS and dental hygiene, and then hurricane relief funds that will be carried forward. And for our county funds for fiscal year 25, we did spend 99.5% of our budget. So just a quick update for the ending of last fiscal year. And now I'll go into a brief summary of finances through September 30th, 2025. With this being the first quarter of fiscal year 2026, and I have to say I'm shocked at how fast time continues to go every year. But looking on your packet there, the first 3 columns, state allocations, one based on previous continuation budgets, as the legislators have not enacted a complete state budget yet. However, we were fortunate that they did have a mini bill that did give us our allocation for enrollment growth. So our current budget is $17,506,477, which includes our formula allocations and special projects and grants through September's state board meeting. Currently, there's been no legislative salary increases for employees, which is unfortunate. And from what we're hearing from our legislators, that is not likely to happen this fiscal year. So we hope as they go into the budget process for next year that we will see some salary increases for our employees. Through September 30th, we have spent $3,953,852, which is pretty consistent with prior years at 23%. The next 3 columns in light blue represent the county budget and actual expenditures. And our county budget is $3,129,864 for operations, and we have spent $866,658. This is 28% of our budget, which is higher than previous years, but we had a couple facility issues the first part of the year that accounted for some of that with one of our buildings and some mold and mildew issues that happened over the summer that we had to get corrected and fixed. The final 3 columns show our institutional budget, And this year, we're budgeting $10,960,844. And this includes a wide range of categories: our student financial aid, other grants, self-supporting funds. And so this is more than last year, but we have several grants that are in operation. And so that's where most of that is coming from. And of course, a major part of our institutional fund is restricted in nature based on the designation. So total combined budget for this fiscal year is going to be $31,598,505, and we are at 24% of our budget through the first quarter. The next slide, or next page in your packets, will be the breakdown of our expenditure categories for our county funding, so you can see that. Salaries and benefits, as usual, are the highest at 24.7%, contracted services at 17.2%, insurance at 18.5%, and again, this is always higher in the first quarter because we pay ours annual, and it usually comes due for October 1st premiums. And then utilities at 15.4%. So I did want to just mention a few other items of importance for us. We shifted this year to most of our curriculum programs. About 70 to 75% are on 8-week sessions now versus full 16 weeks. A lot of the data that we have seen show that this is successful for students because they can concentrate more fully on less coursework than if they were taking it all semester long. Plus, if they have to drop out or family situations arise, they won't lose as much in their progress as they would if it was a whole 16 weeks. Obviously, there are some programs that we can't do that with. High contact courses like nursing, cosmetology, welding, or a few that would not go to an 8-week session. Our enrollment for this year, so far for our fall enrollment, we're up another 4%. So that continues to increase both for curriculum, and we're seeing increases in our continuing education. So we're extremely pleased with that. And then facilities-wise, we have several projects ongoing right now. Our Emergency Service Training Center, which is at about 68% completion, still on schedule for April of next year to be completed. Then about a month of punch list items to get through, and we'll be moving in next summer. Other items that we have are replacing the chiller in our Pfeiffer Hall. You know, that was a building that we had some issues with earlier this year. And also replacing the Federal Pacific electrical panels in about 9 of our buildings, which was a requirement from our insurance company. And then we have some other small things that we're still working on. The ropes course through our therapeutic recreation program, which was damaged during Helene. We're still working on getting bids for that as well. That is my report for the first quarter. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Sandy. Any questions for Sandy today? All right, seeing here none, this item will remain on the consent agenda. Thanks, Sandy.
Thank you.
Item number 2, Burke County Public Schools Financial Report for the year ending June 30 and for the period ending September 30, 2025. Be presented by Keith Lawson, our Schools Finance Officer. Afternoon, Keith.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you for allowing me to come report the first quarter financial results for Burke County Public Schools. On the first slide, you'll see the first 2 columns under the header annual. We have our previous year, last school year's funding sources listed: state, federal, local, charter school, fines and forfeitures all come from you all. Receivables, which come from the schools, and then our special revenue funds that totaled $147 million last year. Our current year forecast is $145. So we have projected a decrease in overall revenues year over year. That's due to a couple of reasons. One, declining state revenues, and also in addition to that, we have declining enrollment. And if I want to be respectful of your time, but if I may have just a moment to explain the difficulty in the way we're funded from the state for teacher positions in particular, and declining enrollment. We have 26 school buildings. We have 14 elementary schools. All right, if we lose 1 student per grade in first grade at 14 schools, that's $122,000 in lost state revenue. All right, where do you lose a teacher in that scenario? You don't. The way the state funding formula works is they allocate funds based across an entire grade level. So they allocate the number of teachers you receive based on 1,000 first graders, but those are divided up into 14 schools. So you don't close down a grade, you don't close down a school because it's sprinkled all through the district. So just imagine that scenario sprinkled all through all 12, 13 grades in our public school system. So that's the difficulty in responding to decreasing revenues as far as we're concerned, in particular in teaching positions. As you can see in the next column, or the next two columns, September year to date, state revenues, we are down 2.1%. For state and federal, both revenues received on this sheet also equals expenditures because we're reimbursed from the state and the feds as we spend it. So we are down 2.1% in state revenues through the first quarter, which is exactly where I had expected to be and certainly hoped we would be. So that's comforting to know that. Next, we have our federal revenues. We're down 4.7%. We had a slow first quarter spending on federal revenues, in particular Title II, III, and IV. Those funds were frozen when we started the year and were unfrozen a couple of months into the school year by the federal administration. So we had a slow start on that, but that will come more in line after the second quarter. Next, we have the local revenues, which is provided by you, the county commissioners, the portion that's passed along to the charter schools, and then the fines and forfeitures, which are passed through you all to us. And you can see that we're up on the local line by 1.4%. I would like for that to be zero or even negative at this point, but I suspect and do think that we'll bring that into line to at least zero or behind what we anticipate for the second quarter. The last line, special revenue line, that's pre-K tuition, Medicaid reimbursement for exceptional children programs, and special federal, state, and local grants that are not managed through the Department of Public Instruction. So as you can see, bottom line, our change year-to-year spending, we're down 1.4%, and our total budget received, we're at 21.1%. On the next slide, local spending specifically, you can see an unaudited 24-25 column. That unaudited 24-25 column, of course, is last year's local spending, and as you can see at this point, we think we utilized about $476,000 in fund balance last year, waiting again for our external audit results when I can have definitive numbers for you on that. Next, inside the bolder box, you'll see the budget, which is $20,803,000 for the year. Through the first quarter, we have spent $5.2 million, and then over to the far right, bottom corner, you can see that we're at 25.1% of spending of local funds through the first quarter. So with that, I'll be happy to entertain any questions you may have.
All right, thank you, Keith. Any questions for Keith?
Keith, is there anything in particular you could point to on the declining enrollment?
Well, yes. Declining enrollment, we're down 563 students over a 4-year period. Of that, charter schools and vouchers are 531. We've seen a particular spike in voucher kids.
Are we still sending money to Florida and places like that?
Yes. Yes.
And what about our Avery County allotment? Is that stable? You know, and what we give them at a local for the students in Jones
Well,
Ridge?
the Jonas Ridge kids, we pay what their local allotment is, which is about double ours. But we have, fortunately, not only our ADM's declining, but fortunately, our Jonas Ridge ADM's declining also.
So we pay them Avery County's percentage, not,
Yes, we pay Avery County's per pupil percentage, and not ours for those kids.
I don't know that I ever knew that.
Yes.
Other questions? All right, seeing here none, this item will remain on the consent agenda. Thank you, Keith.
Thank you.
Item number 3, coming from the clerk today, reappointments to the Adult Care and Nursing Home Community Advisory Committee. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. The terms of Karen Robinson, Diane Patterson, Victoria Whitworth, and Susan Merrill have ended, and all 4 members are willing to serve another 3-year term, and that would be one that ends May 31st, 2028. So this is a request for their reappointment.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Any question on this item? Seeing here none, this item will remain on the consent agenda. Item number 4, also from the clerk, appointments, reappointments to the Council on Aging. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a multifaceted request. Linda McGalliard in, well, I don't have the seat number, is moving, and so we need to remove her from the roster and thank her for her service. We need to reappoint Paige Pitts to seat number 6. Jerry Probst is in seat number 8. His term is also expiring, but he has not submitted a reappointment application, so that is pending. We have received an application from Pearl Jones to fill the vacancy from Ms. Galliard, and the term is to complete a term ending November 30th, 2027 for Ms. Jones' appointment.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Any questions on this item? Seeing here none, this item will remain on the consent agenda. Item number 5, also from the clerk, reappointment to the East Burke Senior Center. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a request to reappoint Karen O'Donnell to the East Burke Senior Center Advisory Council, seat 3, for the remainder of her term ending May 31st, 2028.
Any questions on this item? Seeing here none, this item will remain on the consent agenda. Item number 6, removal, also from the clerk, removal from the LEPC seat number 11. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a request to remove Marty Queen's name from the official roster for the Local Emergency Planning Committee due to an employment change in seat number 11. We may have an applicant by the regular meeting. If we do, I'll let you know.
All right, any question on this item? Seeing here none, this item will remain on the consent agenda. Item number 7 comes from the county manager, approval of budget amendment number 4, $18,500. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a request to budget local donations. About $2,500 of this is from Walmart, and the other $16,000 is from Burke County United Way, largely in support of the Hurricane Helene event and some of the costs that went into the video and those things. So it's a request to budget $18,500 from 3 different types of contributions. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Any question on this item? Seeing here none, this item will remain on consent agenda. Item number 8, which was the item we removed. Then moving on to item number 9, tax collection report, October 2025. This will be presented today by our administrator, Mr. John Bridges. Afternoon, John.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Collections report for year-to-date from from July 1 through October 31st. Property taxes amount to collected year-to-date is $37,477,843.82. That is 68.09% of the budget amount, with a balance to collect of $17,561,170.18. Motor vehicle taxes collected year-to-date is $2,123,353.61. That is 38.91% of the budget amount, with a balance to collect of $3,333,000. Oh, I got a typo there. I'll have to go back and look at that. Current year taxes is, year-to-date, $39,601,197.43. That is 65.46% budget amount. A balance to collect of $20,894,673.57. Delinquent taxes collected year-to-date is $384,300.38. That is 54.90% of the budget amount, with a balance to collect of $315,699.62. Penalties and interest collected year-to-date is $14,213.85. That is 34.72% of the budget amount, with a balance to collect of $214,786.15. For the overall levy, is $56,741,128.49, with amount collected of $37,477,843.82. That is 66.05% of the budget amount, with balance to collect of $19,263,284.67.
Thank you, John. Gentlemen, we'll have some numbers corrected on this report, the motor vehicle tax. And John, I think there's something fishy with the penalty and interest line too. Any questions on this item? All right, with no objection, we'll see the corrected report in our regular meeting information, okay? All right. Item number 10, tax refund and release report, October 2025, also from Mr. British.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. The report amount is $15,144.63. Of that, a rebuild amount of $3,552.04, with a net release of $11,592.59, with a refund of $2,324.62. Motor vehicle refunds over $100 amounted to $209.33.
Okay, thank you, John. Gentlemen, you've got those refund reports in front of you. Any questions on this report? Right, seeing here none, this item will remain on consent agenda. Thank you, John. All right, this brings us to item for decision. I have several today. First item comes from the TDA, presentation of financial update for the year ended June 30th and for the period ending September 30th. This will be presented by Ed Phillips. Ed is out of town today, and we will hear his presentation or item at our regular meeting. Any question that we may need to follow up on at this time? All right, seeing here none, this item will remain on our decision agenda. Item number 2 comes from the clerk, reappointment to the Foothills Regional Airport Authority. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Thomas Fraley occupies seat number 2 on the Foothills Regional Airport Authority. As a reminder, this board appoints 2 members, 1 commissioner and 1 at-large citizen. We have, in addition to Mr. Fraley, we have 2 other applicants on file for this seat, Ed Halliburton or Tim Newton. And the term is to complete the remainder of a 2-year term ending January 31st, 2027.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. Any questions on this item? Seeing here none, this item will remain on the decision agenda. Item number 3 comes from Finance, consideration of the COPS grant and budget amendment number 5. This will be presented by Lindsay Stockman, our senior fiscal analyst. Good afternoon, Lindsay.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm Lindsay Stockman, the Grant Program Manager here in Burke County, and I'm here to talk to you about a new partnership that we have with Burke County Public Schools. Whoa. There we go. So just a little bit, we're going to talk about this COPS grants. It's a violence prevention grant that we got in partnership with the schools, predominantly for the schools. However, we were able to get this partnership and really work with them to tie in some other things that we as the county need as well. Just a little bit about the grant. It came about in 2018 by Congress. They passed it as the Stop School Violence Act. There's a lot of different things that it can fund, as you can see there, but I think what the most important thing is you can see at the bottom, the application and award process is very rigorous. It is a competitive grant, meaning we are competing across the whole United States for people that are eligible, as it is a federal grant. Back in 2024, over 1,008 applications requested over $330 million when they only had about $73 million to allocate. So it is very rigorous. So we are very happy that the school was able to partner with us in getting this grant. So the total cost for the project will be $624,991. The grant award that we hope to accept will be $468,743 with a local match that we will share with the public school system of $156,248. And that will be based on our project needs, which I'm going to tell you about, which aren't in here, which should have been in here. So basically what the county would like to do is use our portion of the grant funds to put more lighting out at Reed Park. So at Reed Park, all the baseball fields are lit except for one, which can increase violence and things happening out at the parks that the school would like to have lit so their students can continue to be out there, continue to participate in sporting activities and other things that we are not currently able to do because that field is not lit. So that will be our part, and the county's portion of the match will be $40,000. That is what we will have to put in. The rest of the match will come from the schools. So a little over $110,000 will come from schools for what they will do. Now the schools are planning on using it for weapon metal detectors out at the athletic fields. So currently they're wanding. They will be using that for those portable machines. They will also like to upgrade some of their camera costs, not only in school, but on some of the buses, and the badge monitors for their staff to get in and out of the doors. So that's what the school is hoping to do. They have decided to prioritize high schools and then work their way down until they run out of money. But it is a 3-year grant. So that is what we are hoping to do, and you all will approve. Do you have any questions?
All right, thank you, Lindsay. Any questions on this grant?
Just one quick point of clarification. So the local match, $156,248, you said that the county's part was $40,000, and is that a combination of cash and in-kind?
I believe it's,
No, it's all cash. I would point out that, we had inside of our capital reserve more than double that to do that lighting. So of the 156, 116, 248 is the school system paid for out of their capital reserve. The county would contribute 40, which is about half of what had been allocated for that, for those lights.
Okay, so the 40,000 and 10,000 is for that specific project at Reed Park. Okay.
Yes.
All right, that's the part that had me a little bumped.
sorry about that, yeah.
And obviously, Lindsay didn't say so, but she is, and the team have worked really hard on the ground. But I would point out that Dr. Swan and Keith, who I think stepped out, are incredibly supportive. The 116, that would be their contribution. They would have at their disposal, the entire grant amount. And these are just some examples. They have a school security committee that are still working on alternative. They think this will fund even beyond athletic entry and school cameras. They mentioned keyless locks and badges at certain schools that don't have those resources right now. So I think that there's a variety of security upgrades that they're planning on doing, but they haven't got full cost numbers for yet. So it's hard to put together a full envelope of what those priorities are.
Yeah, I've got a question. Just on those things, moving forward, y'all know me, what do we need to get everybody safe? I know it's always a money thing, and how are we moving forward so that everybody's up to date? Every school, every place,
You're speaking my dream right there. I think
know,
that would be
I know,
all of our
I'm
dream.
speaking mine. We're gonna make the money some kind of way.
I mean, we continue to look for grants on a regular basis. We continue to see what else is out there. We're not just looking for schools, we're looking for, all improvements, but I think with the federal shutdown, we are kind of also slowed down with some of the grants we could have heard of by now. So we could have heard about maybe a few other things that would have helped us with this process, but we're kind of in limbo right now. But we are continuing to look. I encourage anybody in the county, if you find something, send it to me so we can be ahead of the curve. But this grant will be available to us again in 3 more years. So what can we do to really knock their socks off in 3 years to show this is how, what we've done with the money, how great we've done, being good fiscal stewards of it, and then, you know, potentially reapply to continue all the safety features at the schools and that we would like to see done.
Absolutely. There's a simultaneous COPS grant that we are pursuing. I don't believe we've had final word on that would be a similar cost share with federal government, but would provide additional SROs. So right at this point, not every middle school or elementary school has a school resource officer. All the high schools do, but there's some schools that require floating, especially schools like George Hildebrand that may be a 25-minute response time. I know that's one of the priorities, and we're working through a grant through COPS that would also fund that. And I think so there's a couple things in the pipeline.
Yes, sir.
But both of those advance that school security priority pretty substantially.
I think it's got to really come from us as a community too. I love all the grants and stuff we're working, but I think all of us individually got to go in on our kids, our safety, and all those kind of things. I know we go through all these processes, but I just think we can do it if we all get on the same page collectively, and we won't have to wait on the money. We're going to do it for everybody. So,
Yeah.
y'all know me. That's the way I talk all the time. I'm going to make us some money, y'all. I'm going to make us some money right here locally. It's going to come from places people don't even realize. We're going to have money for our kids, for our community, and the best. We're going to have safety. We're going to have lights, sidewalks. We're going to get the money somewhere. That's what I declare.
I believe you.
And I would like to add, for the purposes of kind of talking about the George Hildebrand issue, the sheriff was able to get a community officer out there, so the response time's much quicker. And if you're out there, someone with ill intentions, I would not recommend that you try anything in George Hildebrand.
All right, thank you, Mr. Burns. Any other comments, questions on this item? All right, thank you, Lindsay. This item will remain on the decision agenda. Item number 4 comes from our Human Resources, approval of policy provisions to continue seeking substantial equivalency with the state. And Mr. Mark Miller will provide that information. Afternoon, Mark.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Get my slide deck up. While they're getting that up, as you remember, back in August, the board approved the Burke County personnel policies that we amended and changed and updated, and was also passed a resolution requesting substantial equivalency at that time with an effective date of October 1st. Since that meeting, we have submitted a request to NC OSHA for approval of substantial equivalency, and we did receive feedback from them that required a couple of edits to the language in the classification plan and the compensation plan. So that's what I'm here today to go back over real quickly and talk about how we're going to make some changes to get there. So North Carolina OSHA requested additional policy clarification in the classification plan around procedures for completing or revising job descriptions, procedures for updating organizational charts on an annual basis. We basically had to put in there that we do that annually, that there is a review of the organizational charts and we're updated. Establish a database management system to track position classifications and utilization. That was basically just telling them that Munis is our system of record. And then the compensation plan, salary administration procedures during suspension. So if we have somebody on suspension, what is the salary implication of that? How do we do that? And the last is just fair treatment principles and merit system standards that are free from the unfair treatment and discrimination. So these changes really is really just adding a couple of sentences to our policies, and we have done that with some additional language and to meet that NC OSHA requirements. We have sent those changes to them for further review, and have come back and said that those changes look sufficient. And so at this time, we are requesting the board's approval of edited policies to continue to seek that NC OSHA substantial equivalency as adopted during the August board meeting. I have provided you revised policies in your packet. You may note that those changes are very immaterial and don't impact the scope of any of our policies of what we did at that time. Really just clarification for OSHA. Those changes have been submitted to the county attorney for review. If you are in agreement with the board, if the board's in agreement and the county attorney's office is in agreement, I would propose that this item be added to the consent agenda for approval. If approved, we would submit that back to NC OSHA for their approval, and we would expect that to happen in December at their December board meeting for NC OSHA.
Thank you, Mark. Mr. Attorney, you got a position on this matter?
Mr. Chair, I would need to check with our office just to make sure that we're finished with the revisions. I believe we are, but, I can check with that first and let the county manager know if that works.
Everybody okay with moving this to consent if the legal review is complete? Everybody good with that? Okay. All right, Madam Clerk, you okay with that consensus?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. This brings us to item 7, reports and comments. I have several reports this afternoon. The first one coming from Animal Services Department update. This will be presented by Caitlin Settlemeyer, our Animal Services Director. Afternoon, Caitlin.
Good afternoon. Thanks so much for having us back. We're excited to be able to share a departmental update. I think it's been a few months since we've been down here, so we have a lot of exciting things going on at Animal Services. I do plan to give that update at the regular meeting. The presentation is in your packet. There's a few projects in there that we've been working on that we've actually been able to move forward since that presentation was made. So I want to give you guys a really current update at the regular meeting. I'm happy to answer any questions you guys may have.
All right, thank you, Caitlin. Fellas, you've had a chance to see the report. Any questions for Caitlin at this time?
Just comments. Really good to see you.
Good to see you guys. Thanks.
All right, thank you very much, Caitlin. Without objection, this item will remain on our report agenda. Item number 2 from the county manager, opioid ORS update. This will be presented by Katie. There's Katie. Man, I didn't recognize you. The glasses on you threw me off.
I've been trying to figure out who that lady in the back was.
All right, well, this will be presented by Katie this afternoon. Thank you, Katie.
Sure. Good afternoon. Good to see you all. So today we are just going to go through a little update about where we are and where we're going. So in September, our annual impact report was due to the state, and that was we had to submit 2 parts, a financial report and an impact report. And so Margaret and I partnered together and got that submitted, and I want to go over just the year in review that went into that impact report. So over the last year, we established an independent opioid settlement department, distributed over 1,000 naloxone kits across the county, launched countywide education and engagement campaigns. Brandy literally trained every school system in Burke County on naloxone administration. And we started off with just the people that were designated as emergency response within the schools, and now it's everybody. Everybody's wanting the training. So we're really saturating the school system and the community with naloxone and education about how to respond to an opioid overdose, as well as, being proactive about preventing overdoses and preventing substance use in general. We coordinated Peers Partnering for Excellence, which is our peer support coalition that meets monthly, developed a videography project documenting lived experience, and sustained an expanded recovery court last year. So even though there was a brief pause in the work that we were doing, we still accomplished quite a bit of work over the last year. So the strategies that were funded in fiscal year 2024-25, the opioid settlement coordinator and the program coordinator, that's myself and Brandy, Peers Partnering for Excellence, videography project, the public health and safety team,
and the strategic plan. And the strategic plan work wasn't included in the annual report that was submitted to the state because we only report on what we're drawing down from. So some of these resolutions and strategies that we approved last year, we were able to do some of the work, but we still have money left in those line items. And then strategy 3, recovery support services, we were able to sustain recovery court in Burke County. So this slide is really important because the heart of the work that we do is founded in doing the work with the people that are living the experience or have lived the experience and can provide input into the work that we're doing and the decisions that we make and what we prioritize. So in fiscal year 24-25, we had 315 unique individuals engage in this process on some level, whether that was through trainings, peers partnering for excellence, or opioid settlement planning as we were having the coordination meetings. So 34% of those individuals reported lived experience in mental health, substance use, or taking care of a loved one. And I also want to add in some data that we collected with our Citizens Academy. So we asked the Citizens Academy, do you have lived experience for yourself or taking care of a loved one with a substance use or mental health problem? 90% reported having that lived experience. So 90% of the people that were just in our Citizens Academy class had direct experience, either taking care of someone with substance use or were in recovery themselves. The biggest barrier that they said was access to care, followed by stigma and judgment. And then the top priority that they recommended was treatment and harm reduction. So this lines up with the priorities and the strategies that we are already looking into. So Burke County Recovery Court was, we funded that last year under opioid settlement. For that year, they had 15 participants served with a total of almost 1,600 staff contacts. 100% of the people that were being served were linked to treatment, harm reduction, and healthcare. 80% were adhering to treatment after 6 months. 73% of participants showed housing retention and employment retention. 87% were connected to other services, 60% engaged in harm reduction, and 100% received naloxone kits. So our current strategies that we've been working on for the last few months are naloxone distribution, our community navigator, and our port team. So we actually found a new provider for the naloxone kits. We were paying around $38 a kit. We found a provider that can provide it for $22, which will make our dollars go further. We are also continuously looking for state grants, and Partners has actually helped us with naloxone kits as well as we fund the Narcan vending machine, or the community health vending machine. The community navigator, we actually have made an offer to someone that starts on November 10th. And our port team, we also have 2 offers for our AM co-responder positions for 2 individuals that will start on November 17th. So we are really pushing forward with these strategies and getting them launched and implemented. So my next report to you all will be about impact. Our provider-led strategies, the first one is SPARK, Family Centered Treatment R. I'm really excited to report that they've already been meeting with DSS and have incoming referrals for this. And so that program is really getting off to a great start. And Lindsay and I actually met with the school system about a different grant a few weeks ago, and they're very interested in doing some work around treatment and recovery in the schools. And so we were able to reach out to Spark, who is already applying for an expansion grant for FCTR that they'll also be able to partner with the schools with. So we're happy to be able to be creating those partnerships and supporting that increased access to care. The next one is a caring alternative, and they were the SACOT and SAOP groups, and they've submitted documentation for site licensure, made some hiring officers for their team lead and their clinical person. 2 staff completed matrix model, and they appointed a program manager, marketing and outreach materials and development, and every one of the 3 provider-led strategies have drawn down their startup funds. And the last one here was low barrier MAT from High Country Community Health. They are already receiving referrals from our community paramedic, and have been really active in participating in the startup of our post-overdose response team. So looking ahead, our next opioid advisory committee meeting is November 18th, and we will be discussing the 3 proposals that we had received that were in our revisit file. So we met with each one of these 3 providers to talk about how their application could be strengthened to move forward in the process. So we'll hear from Burke Recovery, Christ-Centered Recovery Program, and Catawba Valley Healthcare. So Burke Recovery is proposing clinical assessments for substance use. Christ-Centered Recovery is a recovery housing program, and Catawba Valley Health is proposing reentry work. We are also going to review those resolutions that had remaining amounts to look at how we can reactivate those, and then add on to the port resolution. So we'll be reviewing all of that for their recommendation to bring that back to you all. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Katie. Any questions on this report?
Just one quick comment, Katie. I still listen to the scanner daily and hear overdose after overdose calls, so thanks for the work. I'm excited to see that port team get activated and see if we can get these folks, some help. So thank you.
Other questions, comments? All right, thank you, Katie. Without objection, this item will remain on our report agenda. Item number 3 from the Health Department, quarterly operational report for the period ending September 30, 2025. This will be presented at our regular meeting by our Health Director, Danny Scalise. Danny's out of town today, receiving the Milton and Ruth Romer Prize for Creative Local Public Health Work. So congratulations to Danny. And we'll look to him for this report at our regular meeting. Any questions that we need to forward to Danny at this time? All right, seeing here none, this item will remain on the report agenda. Item number 8, other discussion items today. We remind you to submit your reports to the clerk for inclusion in the agenda if you have items that need to go into the report section. Several reminders. November 11th, county offices will be closed in observance of Veterans Day. The landfill and convenience sites are open their regularly scheduled business hours. November 11th, Veterans event at the Morton Elks Lodge, and I believe that event is at 11 a.m. That includes the lunch, so we would certainly invite folks to attend that if you would like. November 17th, our Board of Commissioners special meeting at 5 p.m. This will be in relation to the Marshallese item, and so that will concur at 5 p.m. just prior to our regular meeting at 6 p.m. on November the 17th rather. Again, the youth groups that might be interested in coming and leading in our Pledge of Allegiance here at our regular meeting, we'd love to have you. Please sign up on the website or contact Madam Clerk. We'll let Katie or Caitlin talk about spaying and neutering, I'm sure, at, see, Caitlin has left us. I'm sure she'll talk about that stuff when she provides her report. And again, I'll remind you that we do have a link on our website dealing with trash pickup. If you see trash around that needs taken care of, you can go to our Community Beautification tab on the website and report those problems, and we'll do our best to try to take care of it. All right, and I would also note that we have some other Operation Greenlight stuff here on our podium today. Appreciate Madam Clerk and others who may have helped with that to recognize that. And I would remind you, November 4th through the 11th is Operation Greenlight, and you can support veterans by displaying green lights at that time. So thank you very much, Madam Clerk. All right, now we come to item number 9, action items. It's not over. Don't get excited. It's not over yet. Item number 1 on action items comes from the clerk, reappointment to the July Jury Commission. This will be presented by Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This is a request to reappoint Jennifer Francis to the Jury Commission, seat number 1, to complete the remainder of a 2-year term ending October 31st, 2027, as requested by our lovely Clerk of Superior Court.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. Gentlemen, you have this item in your agenda package. Any questions on this item? If not, I would entertain a motion to reappoint Jennifer Francis to the Jury Commission, seat number 1, to complete the remainder of a 2-year term ending October 31, 2027, as requested by the Clerk of Superior Court.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. That's 5-0, Madam Clerk. All right, thank you very much. Second item comes from the County Manager, General Services, approval of engineering services contract for the landfill. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I also appreciate the board taking the exception to take action today versus 2 more weeks. I know that doesn't happen often, and we certainly appreciate your willingness to do that. What we have for consideration this afternoon is to award a contract for environmental engineering at our solid waste facility. This has been the county, like every county who operates a landfill, has certain things. It could be air quality, groundwater monitoring, methane gas reports. There's really a compliance and regulatory component, but also a planning and development component of the engineering relationship. Burke County hasn't changed environmental engineering firms in more than 3 decades, and we think now may be the opportunity to do that. I frame that by saying you all have seen this React, Rebuild, Rethink administrative plan that we've been trying to follow, and certainly after more than 30 years with the same consultant, we think that there may be some value to fresh eyes, fresh ideas, new perspective. We all know that our solid waste fund is one of our 2 enterprise funds that are directed by the Local Government Fiscal Control Act, Chapter 159. And what that means is it's not a tax-supported fund. It is required to leverage user fees to cover the cost of operation as well as long-term planning. In North Carolina, there's 2 types of solid waste management compartments. In Burke County, currently, we operate a construction demolition solid waste facility. We use a transfer station to transport our MSW waste. But we think that may be, under this rethink phase of our administrative plan, also something that could be should be evaluated, and we want to make sure we have the right environmental engineering firm and partner on board to help us really measure that return on investment and evaluate if that's our best strategy. I won't spend a lot of time here, but the reason that we think that now is the right time, as we've talked about at your strategic planning work session and that you all have given us direction to pursue, is this is obviously Burke, and here is Caldwell County. So the yellow triangles on this map are privately owned MSW landfills in North Carolina. The green ones are publicly owned. So there's only about 44 in the entire state that are permitted to accept a leachate collection system and accept municipal solid waste. The green ones are owned by local governments, like our county owned, for example, Catawba County next door. Most of those are regulated via franchise ordinance so that you can't bring outside county waste into those facilities. The reason that we, historically, Burke County had paid a transport company, beginning last year, this board took action to bring that in-house, and we now do that ourselves, which saved the fund about $1 million a year. But the problem here is there's a little bit of concentration risk. So currently we're transporting about 10 loads a day, 18 miles one direction. And when you start looking at the amount of material being disposed of across the state, and here's us, by the way, Foothills, it's about the 6th or 7th largest solid waste facility in North Carolina. It also has some of the fewest lives left, right? So we think that it's wise for us to evaluate our ability to control this waste stream and control this issue. According to DEQ, there's about 10 years of capacity left at that facility. And when you look at the map, if we don't take it here, where do we take it, right? And there's costs associated with that and risk. And so this exploration of discovery as it relates to handling municipal solid waste is one of the big projects that we want to make sure that we have the right partner on board for, so that we can continue to maintain some of the financial improvement that this department has seen over the last 3 years. For context, out of the roughly 72,000 or 73,000 tons a year that we typically handle, about 64,000 of that is in MSW. So the vast majority of the material that comes into our possession is then transferred out. So making sure that we have, again, the right partner on board was something that our team really prioritized. Other things that are included in this agreement are largely, we've talked about the planning and program support, but also the permitting and regulatory compliance, gas monitoring. For example, we have 2 closed landfills, MSW landfills in Burke County, one in eastern Burke County, one on Kirksey Drive. And both of those had, as the waste decomposes, obviously it creates methane gas. And recently we've had methane gas that was approaching property boundaries. So we had to have a contract for, essentially, think about a French drain. It's something that goes right along the property line that's about 48 inches wide and 20 foot deep, with some very specific material to catch that gas and vent it before it crosses boundaries. That's another example of type of work that these folks can help us with. Engineering and design, construction services, all included inside the scope of services. So back in August, after we initiated our new fiscal year, we posted an RFQ for consulting purposes. We had a 5-member selection panel. Jonathan Seagraves, who's our solid waste manager. Mark's supposed to be on there. For some reason, he's not showing up. Obviously, Mark, as our general services director, led this initiative. We had 8 firms submit a proposal. We narrowed that down to 4, and ultimately this group selected Garrett and Moore, who Burke County has worked with before, as the preferred vendor and the recommended firm. We don't yet have what I would consider the full contract ready for submission to the board and consideration, but because we've worked through this RFQ process, there are some regulatory testing and compliance measures that we need to go ahead and get started, which is why we asked the board to take action today versus waiting 2 more weeks. So what we'd like to ask you to consider today is a temporary contract for $81,580. That money's already in the budget, so we don't need any additional appropriation. We actually think transitioning this relationship may be less costly than the prior firm that we worked with, which was called Lobella, for more than 30 years. So we'd like the board to consider approving this temporary contract with Garrett Moore for $81,580 to get us back into timing compliance with some of these regulatory components. And then we will bring back, likely at your December meeting, the full contract that would last, that would be the annual consideration. Happy to answer any questions you may have on this item.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Any questions on this item? Seeing here none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve a temporary contract between Burke County and Garrett Moore Engineering in the amount of $81,580 and authorize the county manager to execute the agreement subject to review and or revision by the county attorney.
Thank you, Commissioner Burns. All those in favor signify by that please hand. 5-0, Madam Clerk. Item number 3 on action items comes from our DSS departmental update for September 2025. This will be presented today by Corey Fisher-Wellman. Afternoon, Corey.
Good afternoon. Thank you, guys. So we'll go through our monthly updates here. In terms of personnel, these are less of our open positions. We did have a few more separations than normal during the month of September. There you can see a breakdown of the voluntary dismissals and whatnot. And then we were able to hire 4 people during the month of September. As of today, we have, I think, 16 open positions when I left, which is an 8% vacancy rate. Of those, 4 of them have either a conditional or final offer, which if those 4 go through, that would give us a vacancy rate of 6%, which, you know, we talked before, like 4 to 8 is probably pretty normal for DSS, but 6, we're continuing to have a little bit of struggle. Not unique to us with recruiting and maintaining CPS workers, so we have instituted an aggressive hiring approach where we're trying to seek, I think we had talked about this before, but when a social worker starts who has no experience, they have to go through this 7-week pre-service before they can really do any case activity. And we tend to get a lot of applicants who need pre-service, so they're very limited in what they can do once they're hired until they complete pre-service. So we were able to kind of take a look at our costs for sending someone to pre-service through travel, meals, hotels, whatever, and compare that to what it might look like if we hired a sign-on bonus to try to recruit people who don't need that level of pre-service training. So the benefit was they don't need pre-service, and you're getting someone who's a little bit more experienced. So I think we rolled that out 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I think since we've done that, we have made one conditional offer to someone who met there was 2 levels. One who doesn't need pre-service, and then one who has 3+ years of experience. So I think we've made one conditional offer to someone who had the full 3+ years of experience, and then one conditional offer to someone who didn't need pre-service but didn't quite have 3 years. And I think we actually got another application today of someone who would fall into that category as well. So I think that's been a fruitful approach to us, and hopefully we'll be able to continue to work to get those. You can tell most of the positions are INTs, and those are our CPS social workers. In terms of our operational updates, this is just our MOU measures for economic services. We continue to meet, our MOU outcomes throughout economic services. And then is this Medicaid or? So this is our Medicaid report, just given the amount of recipients throughout the county, and then also the number of cases. And then you can see over at the end sort of our report card in terms of how we're doing in terms of timeliness and getting those things processed based on the performance data that's set by the state. This is related to SNAP, which you guys might have some questions about SNAP, which we can talk about after this. But this is just, given the update of, we have about just under 11,000 recipients in the county. That amounts to about 5,600 cases. So that's 10,000, individuals in Burke County who receive SNAP benefits, whether that's children or adults. Again, same report card data. But I don't know if you wanted to say anything else about SNAP here, or wait till the end.
We can wait till the end if that's okay.
Okay. In terms of CPS, this is just looking at our intakes. We talked a few months ago about we moved into a new intake or statewide system, Path NC. So in our first 30 days in Path NC, we had about 99 CPS reports. That went up to about 161 reports in the second 30 days. There's all sorts of factors that cause reports to go up and down, but you can see sort of a graph of those are reports per week, since we've been in Path NC. And then in terms of CPS caseloads, you can see this graph. We've talked several times about our backlog and the work we've done with some contract staff to get that down, but this sort of shows where we hit a peak in February of 306 open cases, and at the end of September, we had about 234 open CPS cases. Let me go. My slides are out of order, so let me skip one, then we'll go back. In terms of foster care, we have seen an uptick. You can see during the month of September, we had 17 children enter foster care and 6 exited, which gives us, this was a point in time, obviously this is a fluid number, but at the end of September, when this data was collected, we had 194 children experiencing foster care. Let's go back to it. This is our adult services data that just shows we have, we continue to have a pretty consistent number of wards. We have 66 wards that we're providing full services for, and then we contract out 17 of those to an outside party. You can see our SAN home and our CAP numbers there to the left, as well as during the month of September, we received 35 APS reports, and then there's a breakdown of sort of how those reports were, which area they went to after receiving the report. I'm gonna let Chaslin talk a little bit about our efforts for Christmas wishes for both our children experiencing foster care and our adult wards. You can, adult is next if you get a chance to slide.
Okay, good afternoon. I did just want to give a brief update on our Christmas project for the children experiencing foster care in Burke County. Total, we have 190 children that we are working on sponsoring and 19 young adults. That is the population of 18 to 21 who have minimal community supports and positive connections. At this point in time, we have 252 sponsors for the population in total, 208 participants. Our goal is to have 2 sponsors for each child and every young adult, just to make sure in case one falls through, you've got a backup. We do try to, of course, prioritize everybody getting 1 sponsor and then go through in terms of prioritizing children who may be in a kinship, who may have maybe a little bit more financial struggles to make sure that they get the second sponsor first. We have had a really good turnout of our other county employees who participate in this program, and I think it does just speak to the volume of how many people truly do care in this county about this population. For business and stakeholders who have participated, we've had KD Solutions, Ken Dellinger, he took 50 tags. Mimosa Hills Golf Course took 20 tags. NCDOT Burke County Maintenance took 20 tags, and our North Carolina Guardian Ad Litem program took 36 tags. And that is our current flyer that we've tried to circulate in the community, whether that's on social media, through churches. I did try to mail personally to each church so that they had the flyer if they wanted to get involved in this program.
All right, thank you. It's good work. Any questions for Chaslin or Corey on these items?
Corey, can you give us an update of how many children we have in out-of-county care?
Like who are placed out of county?
Placed out of county or just in foster?
Placed out of county.
Offhand, I'm not sure.
Okay.
And again, a lot of those are because a lot of those kids are in kinship placements. So those are, I mean, obviously our first choice is always to place with someone that a kid has a connection to. Kinship can be a family member, or it can be someone through like fictive kin, which is just someone through connections that they have, whatever teacher, someone they're connected to. So a lot of our out of county placements are because that's where we were able to find someone that had a connection or cared about this child.
I was just curious, since our next commission meeting, we're gonna kind of focus on the foster care, foster parent portion of that. I was
Sure.
just curious how many.
We can definitely get that number pretty quickly. We can get it to you.
But our folks have to drive to check on these folks wherever they are, right?
Correct.
That's a lot of time, so.
A lot of foster care time is driving around for sure.
Yeah, how far would the farthest one be, maybe?
Well, actually, we just had to send 2 social workers to Detroit to see a child. So it just depends on where they're placed.
Kentucky's been another place, as I
Arizona,
recall.
We had someone
Alabama.
in New Hampshire.
I will
Some of those
tell
are
you,
clinical.
one of the things that I'm very proud of our team for working on, Corey and Chaslin and the HR department, is taking existing positions without adding cost to the budget, looking for process improvement to automate some job functions and reclass some existing positions to some visitation coordinators. That may not be the exact terminology that's right, but it's folks who may not carry a caseload, but can take some of that visitation travel time off of the other social workers to give them more ample time to properly work their caseload. And to your exact point, Commissioner, to alleviate a lot of that in the car. For example, they've shared with me stories of someone who will spend a 10-hour day to get a 2-hour visit, and the other 8 hours is just in the car where they're not adding value to the other 18 kids that are also on their caseloads. We're trying to think about some innovative ways to make that entire process more efficient.
So just real quickly, so like if someone has to go to Detroit, who pays for that? Is that reimbursed by the state, or is that a local expense? How is that captured?
I mean, that's a complicated question. I mean, I first and foremost, it's a county expense, but there is, you know, federal and state reimbursements that are reimbursed through day sheet coding, and it's different per kid, but there is some level of reimbursement, but I mean, upfront, it is a county expense for sure.
I guess what I'm getting at is there a tipping point to where we're sending folks and we're paying folks to travel that we could further incentivize folks to maybe offset some of that if we could further incentivize some folks to become foster parents?
Sure. I mean, I think sometimes the people that are placed in sort of these extreme outlying things are either usually for treatment purposes, so they need some acute level of treatment and we can't find a provider here, and that's why the young lady was, you know, up in New England, where that's the only place that said yes and would take her. So which we did have to go there to do the visits. And then oftentimes other times it's for adoption, whether it's they know there's a family member in Michigan or wherever, or through some adoption search, they've been identified and matched with this child, and that's why the child is placed. Like, we don't place just like,
I would say it's not common.
yeah, for
to
no
place
other
out of
reason
state.
really other than adoption or some type of therapeutic need that we can't meet in North Carolina.
Is there any opportunity for DSS agencies in other states to contract with them to do that visitation for us?
So they do. We have to go quarterly, though, to see the child per the ICPC policy.
So 3 months, they'll do the visit. 1 month, we have to. I guess every quarterly is every 3 months time.
Yeah.
But 2 months, they do the visit. 1 month, we have to do the visit.
Other questions?
I will point out that our team's made also a point of emphasis, the number of institutionalized placements have dramatically decreased, and that's 100%, I think, attributable to a management leadership effort to review all of those cases. So before, I mean, I think that's a very positive thing. We've seen a significant uptick in kinship placement, so working hard to find friends, family, those types of homes for children. Court, before we transition, and if the board has questions about SNAP, could you also talk about some of the more riskier changes that are being considered with PRTFs? And as a reminder to the board, PRTFs are the institutionalized places for children with severe behavioral issues, that these are often the young people that end up in our care living in our building because these hospital settings won't take them, and we're seeing a further erosion in that market.
I mean, I think first, you know, children who need PRTF level of care are a very small number of kids, but they take up a very large amount of resources, whether that's time or, to Brian's point, they spend a lot of time in our office because they're in between placements. But as a result of the Medicaid rate cuts that went into effect, well, I guess that was October 1st or whatever date they went into effect, the biggest rate cut, there was a 10%, a 3%, or 8%, and a 3%. The PRTS fell in that 10% range, so they had a 10% rate reduction in the services. They were able to recoup money from Medicaid, which my understanding is a lot of the PRTFs in North Carolina are saying if that rate cut continues, they will not accept North Carolina kids because they can't afford to operate with that level of reimbursement, which if PRTFs were to quit taking North Carolina kids, that would be, I mean, that'd be a significant problem. Yeah, I mean, these would be our highest level, most acute children with really nowhere to go and would nowhere to go. I mean,
Will that directly affect South Mountain Children's Home?
So they are a congregate care setting. They were affected by the Families First Act, which took away 4E funding, which is federal funding for congregate care after 14 days. So that's one of those placements that unfortunately Brian is referring to. They're a really valuable placement to us because they do really good work and they're local, but we can't get federal reimbursement for placing a child there except for the first 14 days they're there. We get federal reimbursement for the first 14 days, but after that you can't get.
I think the concern with the PRTF change is more children
For
in
sure.
our care.
Very,
overnight.
very acute needs with nowhere to go, which leads to more likely very high needs children in office and unsafe settings or emergency rooms or other kind of inappropriate settings.
do you want to brief them on the contingency funding for SNAP? It literally, I think it's an emerging issue in the
sure.
last 2 hours.
So, yes, my understanding is, I believe, based on the lawsuit that was filed by a number of states, that the administration has indicated they're going to fund SNAP at a 50% level. So that means, this is very rudimentary, I'm not sure it's going to work exactly this way, but basically all recipients across the country will get about 50% of their allotment that they should get for the month of November only. And they are very clear that if this contingency funding is used in the month of November, that there is no more contingency funding. So if the shutdown would continue into December, we'd sort of be right back in this place of people getting no SNAP benefits. I don't think that has any impact on county reimbursements and admin costs and stuff like that, but at least in terms of getting benefits to the people who need it, it does seem like they will be receiving about half of their normal benefits.
Is there any timetable on when that's going to take place?
No. So there was an email from the state right before I walked in here that says they're working on getting that information. I do think the way North Carolina, the contractor they use for the EBT cards, like everything is sort of in place. Like basically once we have the green light, it'll be a pretty quick turnaround to turn that valve back on, but it's just sort of figuring out the logistics of when the money will be available, and then how in North Carolina we also stagger benefits. So begin like the 3rd through the 21st, people all across the state are sort of broken up. So I would assume that once it's turned on, it'll just sort of move forward from that date, but there'll have to be a plan for going back today's the 3rd. So people are not receiving benefits today. So they'll have to figure out how to sort of make up whatever days that are missed once it's.
Chairman, well, how do we take care of our people? Look, we said 11,000 people, is that what we're saying?
Yes, sir.
On our thing right here. I'm just always befuddled. How are we going to innovatively take care of these people moving forward? I mean, all these programs are falling off, whatever the case may be, is how do we take care of one another? How are we going to move forward as a community with all our differences and all those different things that we can care for one another and go all in? I don't know what the answer is, but I'm befuddled by
For sure.
that.
I mean, I think that's a good question, an age-old question in all of society. I think a lot of the things we talk about, in all aspects of this meeting is how we're going to do it, though, through economic development, and through investment in schools, and through investment in career opportunities. Like that's how we reduce the number of kids in foster care. That's how we get people who don't need food assistance. That's how we get people who don't need Medicaid. So I think as a county, we're working towards doing a lot of those things, but it does take, to your point, sort of everybody being willing to work together and be committed, so.
Other questions, comments? All right. Thank you, Corey, Jasmine.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, I'll entertain a motion to accept this report as presented.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. 5-0, Madam Clerk. All right. That brings us to item number 10, adjournment.
I make a motion we adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. All those in favor signify by the uplifted hand. 5-0, Madam Clerk. We're adjourned. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for making presentations.
Mr. Chairman, just a quick reminder that Chris Hawkins' reception starts or has started at City Hall lobby.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.